Hey YouTube, I am Nikki. You probably most know me from my TikTok channel, or page or whatever, and I'm here to talk to you about my disability. I'm going to be shedding light on Aspergers syndrome slash ASD, which is autism spectrum disorder, which they have taken Asperger's and basically removed the name Asperger's and made it into autism spectrum disorder. So I'm gonna read off a list to you guys of different traits, and I will tell you which ones I have and which ones I don't have. Everyone who has Asperger's slash ASD is different. So and yes, they wrote everything down because I am a huge organization freak, and that's actually a part of my thing. Like, I'm messily organized, so that's a part of my disorder, my disability. So the first category for traits are social interaction traits. Weird approaches to social situations. That's something that I have a really hard time with. You go about trying to make friends in very different ways, or approaching a situation very differently, which may make you come off as weird. Okay, this is gonna sound really bad, but when I was in 3rd grade, I was on the playground with one of my friends, or one of the people I wanted to be my friends, and threw a rock at his head. And that's when my mom wanted to go and get me to see a specialist to see if I had some sort of disability. I mean, it wasn't that she thought I was, that she thought I was autistic or anything. She just kind of was like, maybe you're different. And there's nothing wrong with that. She is too. So she's well, I mean, she's not the same as I am. But my dad is very similar to me. So that's the first trait, and that's one I do have. Difficulty relating to others. Sometimes it's hard for you to kind of, it's hard to explain. That's also part of the autism spectrum disorder. You have a very hard time talking to people and figuring out how to, similar interests, I guess. And sometimes it's hard for you to be empathetic towards someone, not sociopathic, non-empathy, that type of thing. I have a lot of empathy. That's something that I have. Sometimes I find it really hard to kind of relate to someone and understand things. So that's another one I do have. Struggling to make friends. That is huge. I mean, I'm not as bad at it now as I used to be. By the way, stimming, one of my things that I do to kind of relax myself is I pick at myself, and I just picked this. That's another thing that I have. So but anyway, struggling to make friends, that speaks for itself. Very hard interacting with people, stuff like that. The inability to pick up on social cues. That's a huge one. And that's what I struggle with all the time. I have a very hard time. I'm the kind of person that gets kicked under the table if someone's trying to say you don't want someone to know something, and you tell me, and then but I'm like, but wait a minute, what about, and then I just I get kicked under the table type of thing. Sometimes it's hard to see how someone is, like, if I'm having a conversation with someone and they're showing the cues that they're not interested, I have a hard time seeing that as well. The inability to, no, not the inability, the inappropriate response to a social situation. Not necessarily, you know how some people, like, get uncomfortable in a situation and laugh, like, in a sad situation? It's because that's what we do. Sometimes we don't know how to handle something. So that's another thing I have. Reduced / poor or intense eye contact. Reduced eye contact is a lot of people have fleeting eye gaze, which means they'll go, like, they won't look at someone and they'll just kind of, like, they'll be having a conversation and they'll look like this. Sometimes that's what I do because I get really nervous. But I also, when I'm close with someone and I know someone, that's when I have my, like, I can look at someone and I can talk to them. It's really hard for some of us to make eye contact, though. Very easily distracted, that speaks for itself. I also have ADHD and anxiety, so, and those are all diagnosed as well. So I was diagnosed with Aspergers / ASD when I was like 13. ADHD was what I was diagnosed with in, like, 3rd grade. So, the next category is language communication. Difficulty starting a conversation, responding to something someone says to start a conversation, starting a conversation on your own. These are things that are extremely hard for people with Asperger's or ASD. I'm also going to say something. I repeat a lot of things to kind of ingrain my, like, what I'm talking about, what I'm telling you about. Like, even if I've told you that something a million times, I'm gonna repeat it because that's just how I am. Two-way conversation. Two-way conversation is very hard for us sometimes. Sometimes we talk over people. Sometimes we talk at them and not to them. We want our words to get out first. We want to get our point across first. So that's something I struggle with. This is something I don't struggle with, but I've seen that a lot of people sometimes talk with no emotion, monotone. So if that's one of your traits, excuse me, to each their own. I mean, we can't really pick and choose our traits, so. Advanced vocabulary, see special interest. Advanced vocabulary, if you have one of your special interests with your disability is advanced, like reading, writing, like, that's one of my special interests. You will talk and use those words as much as you can to explain your, like, things and explain. It's hard to explain. Like I said, Asperger's is very hard to explain sometimes, and we always get, you don't look autistic, you don't look like this, you look too normal to be autistic, I didn't even know you had it, when in reality we do. Language rituals, meaning repetitive repeating of words or phrases, quotes, may not apply to current situation. Sorry, I couldn't read my own handwriting. You know how some people repetitively repeat a quote or something that they hear? That's kind of what it is. And that's what I struggle with. Like, I'll repeat a movie quote 1,000 times, and I'll literally sometimes just sit there and say it to myself because processing language, not understanding someone right away, or may take longer to respond, trouble forming sentences, and we'll restart. I've been doing that a lot in this video. So sometimes it's hard for us to talk and process our language and process what someone else is saying. So, I mean, that speaks for itself, and that's one of the things I struggle with. Literal interpretation of words. Idioms, sarcasms, some jokes. That speaks for itself. Sarcasm, I pick up on some, not all. It's really hard for me to, understand sometimes, just that type of stuff. I'll take things literally a lot. And facial expressions. I don't really struggle with this, but a lot of people with ASD will make like facial expressions at the wrong time for things. Like, it's hard to explain, like I said. Like, if you want to know more detailed like things about it, definitely Google will be your best friend with this. The next category is cognitive and motor skills. Some of these I have, some of these I don't have. Mind blind, which kind of goes back to difficulty relating to others, is hard to take another's perspective and determine their thoughts or feelings. We have a very hard time thinking about other people's feelings than our own. Or we have a very hard time not letting go of someone's feelings. Like, I consistently ask my boyfriend if he's okay, like, is everything good, stuff like that, and it gets on his nerves sometimes, and he's expressed that to me, and we've kind of talked about it and learned that, like, yes, I will repeatedly ask you if you're okay, like, because it's hard to see how he's feeling, like, it's hard to understand, like, that's my thing, like, it's hard to take his perspective on things. Difficulty planning, organizing, implementing, and completing tasks. As you can tell, you can't see on this side and you can't see on the floor over on that side of the bed. My room is messily organized, so it's organized the way that I'm good with, which isn't traditional. So, planning, I have a hard time planning things and going through with it, stuff like that. So, transitions, moving one task to the next, and I put an example down, like me getting confused, thrown off if we don't take the same way home. If we take another turn and my mom says we're going home, but we take a turn that isn't normal to me, I will look at her and be like, why aren't we going the normal way? Like, that's being thrown off of your routine and schedule when things are different. Like, that really messes with people with ASD. I don't have problems with this, but there may be problems with fine and gross motor skills, i.e. Bike riding, handwriting, ball games. Some people have difficulty with those, can't do them because it's too hard for them. Actually, maybe I do. Math is my worst subject, and I had to be helped with that all through my high school and middle school days. So, I mean, that's that. But the next category is limited interest / unusual behavior, strict schedule, upset when plan gets changed, ensuing anxiety. The thing I just mentioned before. If plans canceled or changed, I get kind of upset. So that's a thing. Hyper focus, interests, obsessions. I cycle through many obsessions every month. It could be any week, any month. You perseverate on a certain thing for a certain period of time. Kingdom Hearts, I just recently perseverated on that for about 3 weeks. No, 2 months. And I had previously perseverated on that years ago when I first started playing it. Legend of Zelda, same thing. Pirates of the Caribbean, same thing. I feel like that's probably going to be one of my next obsessions. And I wrote here, and I'll perseverate and obsess for like a period of time, then I'll obsess over something else. So it just moves from one thing to another. Stimming, that is another thing that that I'm going to tell you about. Self-stimulatory, hand flapping, rocking, twirling. I pick my lip scabs, or I pick at my zits. But a lot of times I'll rub my arms. I like to play with my hair. I don't do the hand flapping, and then, I mean, I rock sometimes, but that's not, those aren't, everyone has different stimming things that they do. Sensory input is the next category. Focus on details rather than the entire object. That's something that I have. You don't focus on the whole thing, you just focus on one little part when there's more of it to be seen, I guess. Light sensitivity I don't have, but no sensitivity to light. Loud, crowded places, hard time functioning. Being in a loud, crowded place gives me a lot of anxiety. And I know that there's a lot of people that can relate to that. Not being able to ignore smells or odors, that's just, I don't have that. That's another thing that some people deal with. Hygiene. Doesn't feel like washing their hair, teeth, showering. I rarely deal with this. That also falls under my depression too. Touch sensitivity. May not want to be touched. I'm the other way around. I mean, sometimes I have a problem with being touched, but I'm a hugger. I have a lot of trouble with boundaries. So